Hi everybody, Ron Placone here, and this is another special edition of Media Bites. One thing that I've noticed going on right now in kind of the news sphere is they're finally talking about the amount of public disapproval that the Obama administration is seeing surrounding a potential strike in Syria, and they hadn't really been talking about it. I mean, some networks are kind of politics as usual. I mean, I logged on to Fox News and it was kind of more the whole nationalistic, like, oh, Putin is calling out the United States bluff and this and that, and he's saying they'll strike back, and, you know, kind of more of that, like, pro-war, oh, let's go get them rhetoric. But in other places, CNN, they're starting to talk about how the public largely disapproves of this, whereas before, what we talked about in our analysis from last week, they were saying how apparently the people are about 50-50 on this, although there were no polls indicating that. I did not see one credible poll from anywhere indicating that that was true. So finally, you know, the main corporate media is starting to be a little more truthful that, well, yeah, a lot of people disapprove of this. And I think what this indicates, that they're finally bringing this up now, when Congress is, you know, debating it after coming back from recess and so forth. I think that's evident that now the only time the public gets their due in our news cycle is when they're so loud that they can't be ignored. And you see this a lot in social movements. I mean, you know, Occupy, for instance, was very marginalized from the beginning, but eventually they got so loud that they couldn't be ignored, and some of their ideas kind of came to the surface. And the same can be said for a lot of social movements over the years. And social movements on the left and even on the right, too. It's not limited to, you know, political ideology in this case, because social movements in general interrupt the status quo, which is something the main corporate media does not like. So I think this is very evident of that. But finally, because people voice their disapproval on polls, on probably reader comments, and online, and through independent media, and through other means, calling their Congress people, and so forth, finally, the main media is saying, well, you know, the public's not really thrilled with this, whereas before it was just kind of the politics behind what's going on with Obama and so forth. And to me, like I said before, and I just want to reiterate this because I want to kind of respond to some things people have been saying, obviously covering the politics around an issue like that is important. It's part of the news, but it's not the only story. There's a lot more other stories going on. Stories need to be told, like, well, what's going on internationally? Why is this conflict going on? What are the different sides of the story in regards to what happened with this conflict? What are the different sides of the story domestically in regards to why we should or shouldn't get involved? What are the different analysis on what consequences we could be facing one way or the other? Those stories were really largely not being told at all, at least not by the main corporate media. And yes, I use the term corporate media and not the term mainstream media, because there's nothing mainstream about this media. There really isn't. This media is completely disconnected from the people, from like the general populace, and I think this whole Syria instance is more evidence of that. The fact that finally what the people think is being told when it's almost a little bit too little too late. Finally, people's voices are actually being reflected in the media instead of just made up as it was being done before. So that's why I don't call it the mainstream media, because there's nothing mainstream about it. It's a corporate media because that's who owns it. Large elite corporations own it. So anyway, I think it's interesting that the public is finally being heard to a degree. What this will mean going forward, I don't know. I mean, perhaps we could see, something positive come from this, or we'll see. I guess we can only wait right now, but that's something that I noticed right away that I wanted to mention, and we'll see what happens as the congressional meetings continue. This is Ron Placone signing out. You've been listening to Media Bites.